All right, good afternoon. Good afternoon. Welcome, welcome. Thank you everyone for joining us for our 2022 Summer Global Leadership Seminar for High School Students info session. Our Summer Global Leadership Seminar this year is going to be on the topic of global development and international aid, taking place this July, Monday, July 11th through Friday, July 15th. So a 5-day program this summer. Go ahead and click through to the next slide, Casey. I'll start with some introductions for us. So my name is Kristen Hutchinson, Vice President of Education. The education team is rounded out by Eric Bumbaka, our Director of Student Programs, Casey Trapp, our Associate Director of Student Programs, and David Kippett, our Independent Contractor for School Outreach. All four of us are here today on our info session meeting as well. Go ahead and click through to the next slide. Before I kind of talk a little bit about the World Affairs Council of Philadelphia, I'd love to hear who's in the room, who's joining us today. So if you're a parent, if you're a teacher, go ahead and drop in the chat. What's your affiliation? Are you connected to a school? Have you done or heard of World Affairs Council programs before? Feel free to make an introduction to us in the chat and we will say hello. So welcome to everyone. I'll give you a second to go ahead and type your responses. Hello to Kate, hello to Elizabeth, hello to Emily, Gavin joining us today, also Lana, Robert, and I think Sarah. Go ahead and introduce yourselves in the chat if you're able to. We'd love to say hello. And while you do that, I will go ahead and get us started in terms of who the World Affairs Council of Philadelphia is. My colleagues will go ahead and say hello to you all in the chat. I see introductions coming through. We've got some parents, we've got some teachers. Welcome to everyone and thank you for joining us after your work day or your school day today. So the World Affairs Council of Philadelphia, if you've never heard of us before, we are a nonpartisan international affairs experience provider with 70 years of experience in connecting the greater Philadelphia region to the world. And we serve a very diverse mix of 85 schools. These are a combination of public schools, private schools, parochial, charter, independent, also homeschools, and around 2,500 middle school and high school students annually. And since our inception in 1949, we've served nearly 1 million students, which is just incredible. And we love this photo on this slide. You can see a photo of our Model United Nations program, I think in the 60s, and I think that was our International Student Summit a couple of years ago. And it's interesting to see the outfits and the hairstyles have changed, but the mission of what we do certainly hasn't. And the World Affairs Council provides authentic and meaningful learning experiences. We also make critical international affairs topics accessible to people of all ages, political beliefs, and backgrounds. And essentially, the work that we do helps the community to understand the world around us and the role that all of us play in our national, local, and global communities. And as we know, based on current events, we are sitting here still in a global pandemic, understanding international affairs, understanding the events and issues that happen in countries all around the world, and employing cultural diplomacy is more important now than ever, not just to strengthen our own region and our economy, but to promote civic engagement, to promote participation in the democratic process, and prepare the next generation of leaders to be both college and career ready. You can go ahead and flip through to the next slide. I'll continue on with discussing our pillars of operations. So in terms of what we do at the World Affairs Council, we like to say there's essentially 3 buckets. One of those is talk, the second is travel, and the third is teach. So in terms of talk, we offer what we call speaker events or public programs. About 25 or so in-person and virtual events are offered to our constituents annually. Students can attend these programs, parents, teachers, also members of the public, and members of our organization attend these programs. We have a very diverse list of speakers that come and speak to the World Affairs Council. We've hosted over 5,000 speakers to date. And who are these speakers? Well, they are a combination of heads of state, ambassadors, diplomats, academics, journalists, activists, and all through these programs, we cultivate an environment of nonpartisan civil discourse. And that Nonpartisan civil discourse is also seen through our travel program. We partner with 30 councils across the United States and offer international tours to all 7 continents. Currently, these travel programs are more catered towards adults, but they offer off the beaten path views and briefings from the experts that we bring to sort of enhance the travel experience. And I think my colleague dropped a link to our speaker programs calendar in the chat. You can check this link to constantly see what's coming up, what's next at the World Affairs Council. We've got a lot of great programs. We would love to have you join us for it if you've never experienced a speaker program with us yet. And of course, the third pillar of operation is Teach, our education program, which we said serves 85 schools, 2,500 students. And it's important to note that the World Affairs Council co-sponsored the founding of a public high school here in the city of Philadelphia. The World Affairs Council co-sponsored the Bodine High School for International Affairs in 1981 as a partnership between our nonprofit and the school district of Philadelphia. Go ahead and click through to the next slide for me. So I will continue our discussion, understanding the World Affairs Council, introducing the council to you all, talking a little bit about the council's top educational goal, and that is to develop core global competencies in our middle school students and our high school students. So what are these global competencies? Well, we've got a couple bullet points here on the slide. Number 1 is expanding students' knowledge of world geography, cultures, economies, languages, and international affairs. The second point is that our programs help to increase students' ability to both understand and recognize emerging transnational issues from a range of perspectives. We really force students to sort of step outside of their own personal comfort zones and either, research other countries, hear from a variety of diverse speakers, and analyze issues from a variety of different perspectives. And then the third point is that our programs help to develop a set of hard and soft skills. And in just a couple seconds, my colleague Eric will talk specifically about the Summer Global Leadership Program and the skills that we develop through that program. But in terms of all of our education programs, we really help students to develop the critical thinking, problem solving, and leadership skills that's needed to succeed in a competitive global economy. And lastly, we want to sort of highlight that our programs enhance students' opportunities to work creatively and collaboratively across local and global borders. We always put our students together to work together in our program. So even if you come from a certain school and you join our program, you might be in a student group with other students from other schools. And that helps our students to sort of break down those borders, work creatively and collaboratively with their peers from across the region. Go ahead and click through. All right, I will now turn the virtual podium over to my colleague Eric, who's going to chat a little bit more about our high school programs and how the Summer Global Leadership Seminar plays into that. Eric?
Great, thank you, Kristen. And first off, welcome to all of our students, teachers, parents, anyone else who's joining us today. We're so excited to give you a little insight into not only our summer program, but the council and our education team here tonight. So briefly, I just want to talk about our high school programs that we offer kind of holistically. We offer 2 major academic year programs, our Model Senate program that occurs in the fall and our Global Economic Forum, which occurs in the spring. Both of these are large-scale simulation programs where students are assigned a specific role, a specific character or world leader, that they assume that identity and then perform that identity during the program, acting and behaving just like that delegate or diplomat or head of state would do in a negotiation or debate or discussion with fellow world leaders. So that's kind of the model that we used for that fall and spring program. Those bring together hundreds of students from many different schools throughout the Philadelphia area. And we just wrapped up our Global Economic Forum last week, I believe, the first week of March. It was a great success, and it was one of our first times returning back to in-person programming since the beginning of the pandemic. And we were so thankful to see our students again in person and be able to get that in-person dialogue and debate going. In addition to those 2 academic year programs that we run our Summer Global Leadership Seminar, which is, of course, why you're all joining us today. Casey will go into the specifics of the Summer Global Leadership Seminar in just a little bit, like the agenda and so on, but I'll just kind of give you a brief overview of what the Summer Global Leadership Seminar is. And then finally, the other two programs that we offer are access to those speaker programs that Kristen mentioned. Great opportunity for our students to hear directly and engage directly with world leaders, journalists, academics, really interesting and influential people on the world stage. We actually have a special role called the student questioner role for that program, where any student who would like to be prepped and register for that role in advance of the program gets to ask a question, a special question, the first question of our Q&A sessions directly to the panel or the speaker at the podium. It's a really great opportunity to get that kind of first question, great opportunity to interact directly with our speakers. And then, of course, we have our iThrive simulation programs, which are another type of simulation program that we run. Sorry, Casey, to jump ahead or jump back here. It's another type of online simulation program that we run that we schedule with schools throughout the year on a rolling basis. But let's get to the kind of the heart of what we're here to discuss today, the Summer Global Leadership Seminar. So as Kristen mentioned, this year's program is on global development and international aid. So looking at the different structures, organizations, international organizations, nonprofits, and as well as like theories and more academic views of what is global development, what is international aid, what are their uses, what are their purposes, and how do these concepts interact with each other on the global stage. It's a really fascinating conversation when you start thinking about incentives for countries and world leaders and the various kind of power plays between various world leaders, whether it's the US, China, Russia, or so on. I think there's a really interesting and informative program here about about global development and international aid and the intricacies of what that looks like on the global stage. So our program will run from Monday, January 11th to Friday, January 15th. It is a full 5-day program. It will be taking place in person in our offices in Center City, Philadelphia from Monday to Thursday. Our time frame is roughly 9 a.m. to about 1 or 2 p.m. depending on the day. Some days end at 1, some days end at 2, depending on our particulars for that day. We also like to include an optional local field trip to a museum or a cultural institution or some sort of extended discussion that is optional for students to attend, but really interesting and informative way to kind of, again, just engage in a kind of a different way than our other activities and programs and speakers that we bring to our students. I did mention that we're in our offices Monday through Thursday, because on Friday, our final day, we take a field trip to Washington, D.C., which is a full program day, about 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., where we visit up to 2 or 3 different embassies, international institutions, nonprofits, really large governmental organizations. We love to do tours and briefings with their expert speakers. It's really a great opportunity for students to engage with some of the brick and mortar international institutions and organizations and our own government organizations down in DC and hear from very high level involved and intelligent and smart speakers that can speak directly with our students in kind of a curated small group session. Prior to our program, we do produce a curated list of resources for our students, basically as a primer for students to kind of come into the program with a base level of understanding. They aren't particularly difficult or long. It's really just kind of a primer for the program so that we're able to really hit the ground running and maximize our time together for those 5 days. So day 1, we can really get into the material and really have some really interesting concepts and discussions there, with students kind of coming in with some of that historical or contextual knowledge walking into the program. And Casey will, in just a second, will speak a little bit more about our kind of day-to-day activities, but each day you can expect interactive workshops, expert speakers, and a kind of a variety of different activities that we do with students on a day-to-day basis. We also have a formal policy debate on one day. It's usually our Wednesday date is our formal policy debate, where students are assigned one or the opposite end of a debate prompt, and then have to practice their rhetoric and public speaking and engage with each other in a formal debate. And then what we have slightly unique to our organization, we create each year a crisis simulation that students have to work through. So again, borrowing from our high school programs where each student is assigned a role, whether that's an international head of state or a senator or whatever it may be, we like to give our students in the summer program that opportunity to simulate a world leader, senator, or so on, and have to react kind of in real time to various crises that we throw at them, or just changing information and really grappling with decision making and being able to dialogue and debate with a variety of other students in this kind of simulation that we like to put forward. It's really one of the most fun activities that we do, I would say, probably outside of that Friday DC trip as well. If you don't mind going to the next slide, I'll just talk a little bit about our learning goals for this program. So with a week-long program like this, we really do try to dig into some of the specifics and details of our topic, again, global development and international aid. We really want students to gain a really deep understanding of this topic of global development and a good idea of the intricacies of a global economy, the connections between large economies like the United States and China and European Union countries and so on. But we really want students to kind of understand fundamentally some of these topics and really be able to intelligently and adequately discuss these and debate these with each other. We look at a bunch of different theories and approaches to international aid and global development. I think that's going to be a very interesting exercise, just looking at the theoretical aspects of this. But then there's also the real, soft and hard skills that we want our students to walk away from. Key content skills, which I've mentioned before, but these interpersonal skills as well, debate, research, negotiation, problem solving. These are all really important for students to develop in the high school years. And we think that our programs do a great job of exposing students to those really important soft skills that are vital for students. We're going to talk a little bit about financial literacy as well. Global development and international aid, you kind of have to have an understanding of key financial literacy skills and kind of key, economics 101 type concepts that are important for understanding these, complex international macro level policy discussions at times. Again, that role-playing element is really critical. We love seeing students and putting students in the position of decision makers. And our simulation activity and our simulation crisis and our debate activity are great at putting students in those tricky but informative and experiential learning opportunities to continue their growth and development. And of course, again, as mentioned, develop the critical public speaking, research, and leadership skills as well. A great opportunity for students to meet like-minded peers from around the Philadelphia area. They might be from very different schools, very different environments, whether it's the city of Philadelphia or suburbs. It's a great opportunity to meet and collaborate with students who they would not normally get exposed to in their school environment. Okay, Casey, I think I'm going to pass it over to you to look through our kind of a sample agenda and what our daily agenda might look like for the Summer Global Leadership Seminar.
Yeah, okay, great. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. We're very excited to be speaking with you and already looking forward to summer for our Summer Global Leadership Seminar. So I'll just walk us through our agenda and kind of give some maybe examples as to past activities that we've done. And then we'll talk some more program logistics before we get to our attendees today. So our first day is really about introducing the topic, having the students get acclimated with one another, introducing ourselves to the students. So we'll do a morning meeting. That's a little bit longer than the morning meetings on the other program days, a great icebreaker activity or two. And we'll really kick things off with an expert speaker briefing. So we're bringing in expert speakers that are usually from the Philadelphia area, especially with our in-person programming. And these might be academics from local universities, people who work at relevant nonprofit organizations or in relevant government positions. And we always try to, ensure that the expert speakers are as interactive as possible with the students. There's a lot of time for Q&A and dialogue between the students and the expert speakers, and that they are gearing their presentations towards high school students while still maintaining a high level of topic discussion. And then we'll move into an activity. The activities for day 1 and day 2 are really focused on teamwork, research skills, and public speaking skills. So for day 1 and day 2, our activities usually center around some kind of curated list of resources that we create for the students prior to the program. And they'll get divided into pairs or into groups, and they kind of have to research some kind of subtopic or a case study regarding a certain country or a group of countries or a region, and use the resources to kind of put together some kind of presentation for the rest of the group and kind of have the opportunity to teach their peers about that subtopic or case study that they've been assigned to. So day 1 and day 2, the activities, change year to year, but they really do focus on the leadership, teamwork, research, and public speaking skills aspect of the program. And then after our wrap up on day 1, we like to have an optional extended discussion. So obviously this is optional. It's not required for the students to attend. We normally see that the students are pretty excited, and most of them do attend these optional extended discussions. And also it's a great opportunity for us to involve our education interns, who are usually college students. So it's more of like kind of a peer-to-peer discussion. We'll kind of supervise the interns, but they often lead the discussion, and they'll pick some kind of, again, like subtopic or case study. And it's more of an open-ended conversation that gives students an opportunity to engage with the topics in a different way than they do with the rest of the activities and briefings throughout the week. Day 2, again, morning meeting, expert speaker briefing, another activity, and some kind of interactive workshop before our daily wrap up. Then the week moves very fast from here on out. We have a lot that we fit into these last 3 days of the program. So day 3 is continued learning on the topic, but then really focusing on the policy debate. So we'll give students a set of resources ahead of time and assign them to 2 teams, either team affirmative or team opposed. They'll get a prompt that they have to respond to that relates to the topic, and they have to advocate for their side of the debate during the activity. So students will, work together to craft statements, and they'll deliver an opening statement, rebuttal statements, and then closing statements. And we'll have either ourselves or our interns or some guests serve as judges and ultimately determine a winning team. So it's a good kind of fun competition and a way to, get students to learn more about the topic in a different way from the other activities throughout the week. Then we give them some time to prep for the crisis simulation on day 4. That really takes up like the whole program day on day 4. And we really want to make sure that students are ready to step into the roles that they've been assigned to, that they have time to do the research that they need to do to, again, really step into their roles, and have the topic knowledge to have a lot of debate and discussion during the crisis simulation. And then again, as Eric mentioned, we'll have another either optional extended discussion or a local field trip to some kind of relevant institution or museum or organization, something of that sort. Day 4, as I said, is pretty much our crisis simulation. So we'll give them some kind of briefing, again, to make sure that they're adequately prepared. Most of the day is that crisis simulation, and then we'll do a little prep for our Friday trip. Day 5, the Friday trip, is super fun. It's like the best way to round out our week and finish strong with learning about the program topic. And it gives students a real sense of like the formality of the topic that they're learning about, because we'll visit an embassy, maybe a think tank, some kind of other policy institution. We visited the State Department in the past, and other nonprofit institutions that relate to the program topic. And we'll take them out to a nice lunch at a restaurant. So that's like a full day. We'll be gone from, about like 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. But again, it's a really great way to round out the week. And it's always one of the students' favorite things about the program. So moving into our program logistics, first with pricing and scholarships. This year, the program is $300 per student, which includes that Washington, D.C. full day field trip with the lunch. We require a $75 deposit following registration. So after you fill out the registration form, the message that you get at the end of the form will have a link that takes you to our website where you can submit that $75 deposit to confirm your registration. All that being said, we do offer scholarships to any student who would require it to participate in the program. Our goal is to not exclude any student from our programming because of cost. So if you are interested in this program, or you know a student that's interested in this program and you're worried about the cost, please don't hesitate to reach out to us and we can walk you through that scholarship process. And of course, we have additional logistics that go around in-person programming nowadays because of the COVID pandemic. So anyone who is interested or registering for this program should be aware of the Council's COVID-19 health and safety policies, which does require that students must be fully vaccinated with the first 2 doses of the vaccine and present a proof of vaccination to the Council ahead of time. We'll also have students complete a daily health status survey with some really basic questions just to make sure that they're feeling good to go to attend the program every day. They're not symptomatic. So that way everyone can continue to attend the program in person throughout the week. And then finally, we'll get a photo, video, media release form from all the participating students to see whether or not we have permission to take their photos and their videos and potentially publish them later on. So we'll finish out our presentation with just displaying some testimonials from last year's program. We find that the students that participate really leave feeling like they became kind of mini experts on the topics, right? It's pretty amazing to see the level of knowledge that they have on these topics and the types of discussions that they can have after leaving the program. And it's a great way for them to develop their interests. There's a lot of different facets to this program. There's a lot of different opportunities for students to flex the skills that they already have and to develop those skills. And we often find that they really do love the expert speaker briefings. That's always something that keeps coming up in our evaluations, because again, the expert speakers really know how to interact with the students and make sure that they're a part of the conversation during these briefings. Okay, so I think now I'll stop screen sharing and we'll take any questions either in the chat, or you can feel free to unmute yourself.
We can probably kick things off with some questions we received yesterday during our summer camp info session for our middle school students, because we're also running a program for middle school students. I know some folks had questions around like program capacity and also like registration deadlines. So I don't know if we want to hit those first, and then we'll see what other questions might come in.
Yeah, absolutely. So just to talk a little bit about our capacity and registration deadlines, we have a capacity of about 30 to 35 spaces in this program or so. 35 is kind of our harder cap. 30 is kind of our sweet spot for the number of students in this program. We do bring students on into the program on a first come, first serve basis. If you need some opportunity, or sorry, if you need some time to look at finances and await our scholarship information and stuff like that, we can absolutely hold a spot for you if you have that type of burden. But we do fill this program fairly quickly over the next couple of weeks and months. And so I encourage you to register soon, because it is a first come, first serve opportunity. And we do have that cap at about 30, 35 or so for this program. Casey, anything I missed about a registration process?
No, I'll address a question that came up in the chat. We had someone ask if there was a way that the prep materials, that pre-program resource guide, could be made available early in the summer. I think that, yes, that's a great thing to consider, that there's going to be other summer activities. And I know students often have summer work, right, for school. So we will try to get that pre-program resource guide sent out as soon as we can, probably like right at the end of the school year, or first couple of weeks of summer. So thank you for that question.
Looks like there's a question from Lana in the chat. It says, can you give some examples of specific issues that have been addressed in past sessions? So maybe like past Summer Global Leadership Seminar topics. What countries, regions, is that predetermined, or do students select focus? Okay.
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. So our process for selecting topics is very much student informed. We survey our students at the end of each year, asking what their interests are and what topics that they would like to see covered. So our topics are largely drawn from our students, and then me and Kristen and Casey all also ideate and think about what's interesting and what we can what we can pull off in a full week-long program. Just to kind of give you some information on what our past two programs have been. Last year, our Summer Global Leadership Seminar was on constitution building. I'm not sure if anybody's aware, but the country of Chile was undergoing a constitutional rewrite, a modern constitutional rewrite, which was super interesting. And they went about that process in a very interesting way. So our program was based on the idea of building and writing your own constitution. Unfortunately, because of COVID, we weren't able to do that Friday trip to DC last year. And so the program was a little bit more revolving around like a final project that students did, which was essentially writing their own constitution for their kind of fabricated country, a country that they created. They got to write their own constitution. Prior to that, we've done programs on political Islam. So looking at the intersection of Islam and politics, especially in North African and Middle Eastern countries, and the variety of different ways that Islam and politics incorporate and mesh together. That was a little bit stemming out of the various revolutions that were going on, the Arab Spring that was going on a few years prior to that as well. Casey, Kristen, anything else about our topics or anything else that I might have missed there?
Yeah, I dropped a couple other past topics in the chat. I had to just take a quick look. So ranging from, Islam, politics, and a changing Middle East, we focused on other regional areas like China, Europe. Thanks, Casey, dropping our program archive, which is a really great historical look at the topics and resources we've provided. And then the question about like countries and regions is really interesting as well. When we do our crisis simulation and our debate during the summer program, students do get certain assignments for those days, right? So they might be assigned to represent a certain country, a certain region. Oftentimes we simulate international bodies and organizations that meet on a regular basis. We've done like African Union, Model American States, Security Council resolutions before too, and everywhere and in between. So we do have a scope for those different activities, but we do give students a little bit of autonomy sometimes if they express like a certain interest in a certain country or assignment as well.
Yeah, and just quickly, just to elaborate a little bit on that program archive link, if you scroll all the way down, you'll find the Summer Global Leadership Seminar section, and you can find the agenda and the program book from a couple years back. So if you're really interested in learning more about the examples that Kristen and Eric just gave, feel free to check out that part of our website. And you can see the stuff that we've done for other programming too.
We have a question in the chat about, are you looking for educators for this program? That is a great question, and something that we are starting to kind of put our heads together with now in starting in March. As I mentioned, we kind of ended our high school programming last week, which means now we're kind of in full gear thinking about our summer program, planning it, who our expert speakers are going to be, what facilitators we need, what the structure of our debate and our crisis simulation are going to be. All of that is part of our kind of decision-making process and thinking about who we want to reach out to as educators, as expert speakers for our program. So Robert, if you want to just drop maybe another message into the chat, or you can specifically DM Kristen, myself, or Casey, whether you're a high school teacher or whether you're an expert in one of these areas, or how you might want to get involved, we'd be happy to start that conversation, because those are the exact conversations that we're having as a department right now. So thank you. You kind of read our minds a little bit and looked into what our department meetings are about during the month of March.
Yeah, I think it's the fun part of our job is really getting to kind of make these decisions and put these programs together. And when it comes to speakers, we really do strive for a really diverse group of perspectives and backgrounds, right? So we're not just going to have academics, we're not just going to have folks in the political sphere. We'll have a nice combination of all, including also folks that are in like a local activism space as well, to help round out those discussions and perspectives. Great questions, everyone. Thank you so much. we will leave a little bit of space if you have any last questions for us about the program or the organization. We are really looking forward to the Summer Global Leadership Seminar program. It is so inspiring every year to know that a group of students choose to spend a week in their summer months talking about international affairs. It's really fun to bring them as well to that fifth and final day. They impress the institutions that we visit with their questions, which are often a culminating piece of the work that they've done all week long. And so they're able to kind of really experience that fifth and final day and sort of, synthesize all of the information research they've been experiencing throughout the week.
Yeah, and I'll just quickly add that one of our favorite parts of our programming and the students as well is being able to interact with students from other schools. I think Kristen or Eric mentioned that earlier. But students who normally would not get the opportunity to interact with one another and become friends with one another and learn about each other's experiences, they get to come together in this space. So that's definitely one of the benefits of this program as well. Also, yes, Lori, we're very excited that we can have it in person again and have a field trip. We're very much looking forward to that as well.
Yeah, I always think back to when we would arrive back in Philadelphia at 7 o'clock at night that Friday, and everyone realizes it's the last day, the last time we're going to see all of our friends. And there is that camp environment, right, where students are developing those relationships like Casey alluded to. And the last day is always a little teary when we have to say goodbye, but it's always temporary. We'll see them again at other World Affairs Council programs, which is exciting too. All right, any last questions before we conclude? We will share this recording with everyone, so you have a copy of what we discussed today, also the slide deck that we presented as well. Seeing a lot of thanks coming in through the chat as well. This was very informative, great. We're super happy to hear that as well. Okay, without any final questions, I think we will wrap up our session for today. Thanks everyone for joining us. We look forward to hopefully having you register for the program sometime soon. Lock in your spot. This program does sell out. And we look forward to seeing you all soon. Have a great evening.
Thank you, everyone.
Have a good night.
Have a great night. Thanks for joining.
All right, we can end the recording.
Sorry.